we're going to continue to make progress on all those fronts, and yes, we are going to continue to implement the health care law. The product is good, people want it, and we should not live in a country where people are going bankrupt just because they get sick. And anybody who's going to keep on pushing against that, they will meet my resistance, because I am willing to fix any problems that there are, but I'm not going to abandon people to make sure that they've got health insurance in this country. That is not something we're going to do. But this is a fight that we're going to keep fighting because it's worth fighting. And that's what Melody referred to. It's true. I'm not an ideological guy, but there's some things I really believe in.
All right, folks, welcome to the Steve Malzberg Show. Wednesday edition, day before Thanksgiving. Glad you're aboard. Barack Obama's not an ideological guy. I had no idea. Joining us right now to talk about Obamacare and more is Senator John Thune, a Republican from South Dakota. Hello, Senator.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm fine. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Same to you. Thank you.
I appreciate that. All right, so you hear the president. He's not going to back down. He's not an ideological guy. Is that a surprise to you?
Yeah, I think that's a surprise to a lot of Americans. I think the president obviously has an agenda which consists of expanding government in transforming government in ways that we haven't seen in generations. And he is very ideological. He believes government's the solution, and that's why with their health care plan, they've tried to take over 1/6 of the American economy. They want to remake us in the, sort of the picture that we see in Europe. And I think it's unfortunate. And what you hear him now saying is he's digging in, he's going to fight on this, but he still wants to exempt all his friends and allies, which is what we're trying to prevent from happening.
Yeah, I want you to talk about that. You flagged this rule change after it was filed under the in the Federal Register. You're calling it crony capitalism at its worst. The unions who were behind this found out what was in it. They're unhappy, and now they're getting a break.
Well, exactly, and this is the kind of thing that just, I think, makes the American people furious when they see that the president takes care of his political allies, his donors. They get treated better than average Americans, and that's a clear pattern with this administration. It is cronyism at its worst, and we've been trying to curb that, but what the president did this week when they published this proposed rule that would exempt these union health care plans is they're giving them a special deal. I mean, they're getting a carve-out, a backroom deal that nobody else gets, and everybody else is going to have to pay for it. And I just, I understand the union's frustration with this law, but they were one of the biggest advocates of it. They were out there pushing hard to get it passed. They've been incredible supporters of the president politically, and now they're finding out, like everybody else is, that this law is a very ugly reality for them. And they're trying to get an exemption, and the president is giving them what they want. Unfortunately, everybody else is paying the price.
All right, yeah, Senator. We made some news here on this show on Monday when Mr. Halpern from Time Magazine and MSNBC came on, and he said he agreed with me that there were death panels. He said it was built into the Affordable Care Act. It's how they're going to pay for it. It's how we're going to cut costs. And before we get to that, the death panel is in the minds of many IPAD, the Independent Payment Advisory Board, and Barack Obama gets to appoint 15 of those, all 15 of the members. And I just found out today from a Fox News report that because of the nuclear option in the Senate, he gets to appoint those members with just 51 votes. So here we go again.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, it is a blatant power grab of the highest order, and you just see it in every area. The nuclear option triggering that last week allows them to put their people into positions of power who are going to do everything they can to implement his agenda with in bypassing Congress. I mean, it gives them an opportunity to circumvent the legislative branch of the government and to get things done with a simple majority, 51-vote majority in the United States Senate, and that breaks with precedent and tradition and history, and it goes back a couple hundred years in this country. So, I think you're going to see more and more of this. But this IPAP, we've tried to repeal that, obviously, because we do think that is a central core element of this law, and it is what's going to allow them to ration health care. And you saw the other thing probably in that New York Times piece, I think it was over the weekend, where they didn't want to talk about redistribution. even though that's really also at the heart of this health care law.
Absolutely. We're talking to Senator John Thune here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Would you call them death panels? I mean, you know, they're going to decide. As you said, they're going to ration care. We've heard from the president himself, who cites that about 80% of health care costs are for in the last few months of life, and we have to do something about that. Now, he hasn't said that in about 4.5 years, but when he was running and talking about health care, he did say that at a town hall forum, and that's a conversation that's going to be coming up very soon, that fundamentally our values in this country, where we want to keep our parents and grandparents alive as long as possible, they're now going to be denied the bypass, the hip surgery, take a pill, go to a hospice. I mean, that's a revolution in the way we view our parents and our grandparents.
Well, it is. And, you know, what it really does, Steve, is it does take the decision-making away from individuals and families, decisions that ought to be made around kitchen tables and made among family members, and replaces it with big government. And the architects of big government have wanted that all along, which is, you know, that's the president and the people that he surrounded himself with. So you can characterize it however you want to, but the fact is, to make this thing work, they have to ration care, and they're going to have this independent payment advisory board that's going to make decisions about what gets covered and what doesn't get covered, and that's going to take us into a whole new world.
And you can't, and you can't even, you could question them, but you can't even stop them. They could sit there and say, yes, an 80-year-old will no longer get a bypass surgery, and if 51 Democrats vote for it, you guys are now powerless.
Yeah, and that's again the great risk, the great threat of a command and control healthcare system that's run out of Washington, D.C. When you take over, when you give political control, you know, literally to 1/6 of our economy, this is what you end up with. And I hope the American people are waking up to it. I think they are. I think that the premium, sticker shock, the lost coverage, and very soon people are going to start losing their doctors. I think you're going to start seeing the American people react to this in a way that hopefully will generate the necessary critical mass to get Washington to start over, to repeal this thing and go back to the drawing board. And I hope that happens around the country, because right now it's going to take something like that to get these guys' attention. The one thing I do think that's happening in the Senate, I think it's happening in the House too, is the wall of resistance among congressional Democrats is starting to crack a little bit, because people back home are lighting them up, and we need to continue to see that happen.
One more, Senator, and that is the deal with Iran. If you listen to both sides, now the Iranian government is saying that the press release put out by the White House was misleading, was inaccurate. They say, among other things, they could continue to enrich uranium. Kerry says, no, they can't. This just seems like it's as bizarre as it gets.
It is, and I think they desperately wanted a deal. They were so desperate to get a deal, they're going to get a bad deal, and I think you can tell very simply by the reaction that the Israelis and the Saudis had to it. They're the people who are most directly impacted by this, and they know that the Iranians are intent on developing a nuclear capability, and this really doesn't do anything to stop that. They continue to enrich uranium, and the stopping construction at the deep water reactor plutonium facility there is a short-term thing. They can continue to do other work around
Senator, one question, not to interrupt. We only have 30 seconds. Will you guys pass further sanctions before the 6 month is over?
I think we have to, and I hope we have bipartisan support to do it, Steve, because if we loosen up those sanctions and loosen the noose that we have around their neck right now, they're going to break out. And I think that's exactly what they want to do, and that's why they're so excited about this deal.
Senator, happy Thanksgiving to you. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, you bet, Steve. Good talking with you.
Take care. You too. Senator John Thune, ladies and gentlemen, Republican from South Dakota, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Very interesting. I certainly hope they do pass the sanctions. Okay, we're moving right along. Big show today. Don't touch that dial, no matter what the dial is.